Hi everyone, welcome to another day of prayer and fasting. Two visual aids to help us before we head into Mark chapter 1. The first one is this down here. We've got a pause button, that's the first one. Then the second one, slightly bigger, is over here. And this is a mixer, but particularly we're going to be thinking about the kind of forces that exist within a mixer, okay? All very intriguing. So let's read from Mark chapter 1. I'm going to read from verse 32 to 39. Okay. Now when evening came, after the sun had set, they began bringing to him all who were ill and those who were demon possessed. And the whole city had gathered at the door. And he healed many who were ill with various diseases, and cast out many demons, and he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew who he was. And in the early morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went away to a secluded place, and prayed there for a time. Simon and his companions eagerly searched for him, and they found him, and said to him, "Everyone is looking for you." He said to them, "Let's go somewhere else, to the nearby towns, so that I may also preach there, for this is why I came." And he went into their synagogues, preaching throughout Galilee, and casting out the demons. The reason that I thought that the pause button was a good visual aid is that people often think about this little interlude in Mark chapter 1 as being a little bit of a pause in the midst of Jesus' very, very busy ministry. And the word used in this passage for prayer is in the imperfect tense, which means that it was an event that was happening a lot continuously in the past and was happening today. So Jesus hits the pause button and goes into this place of prayer. The reason that I used this other visual aid down here, the Kenwood mixer, is that in a Kenwood mixer there are two different types of forces going on. There is the centripetal force, which is moving things towards the center, and then there's centrifugal force, which is moving things from the center. And commentators look at these verses that I've just read out, and they pick up that there's two different types of forces going on in the passage. There's lots of centripetal forces going on, which is pushing everything into the center. We can see that, can't we, when it says that the whole city was gathered at the door where Jesus was. There's kind of a pushing in to Jesus' life because people have experienced his healing, his deliverance, his power, and they want to find him more, and they want to search for him, and the whole city is gathered around. Also, this idea of forces kind of pushing into Jesus are still around in the second half of the passage, and when it talks about how everyone is looking for you, and the disciples were searching hard to find him, so everybody is kind of gravitating towards Jesus. There are all these forces pushing in on him, but yet he manages to pray in the midst of it all. And a great commentator called Edwards, don't know his first name, Edwards says this when he talks about the priority of prayer. He says that the only antidote to the tyranny of the urgent is the priority of prayer. There were so many urgent things that were going on in and around Jesus' life at this point in time. People were being healed and set free. Disciples were being made. Church life was kicking off. But yet Jesus needed to escape from the urgency and the demands and the needs of individuals to escape to this place of prayer and to hit the pause button. Because as he did that action, as he prayed there in that secluded place, he was pushing out the very opposite. He was pushing out with centrifugal force, pushing out to encounter his Father in heaven. Jesus didn't want to be conformed to the world and the forces that were pushing in on him, all the pastoral needs of the individuals that were being set free and delivered, all the busy church life that was starting to kick off in and around him. He wanted to exert his spirit in an outward flowing motion to encounter his Father in heaven. And that's so important for us in prayer, that when we kind of hit the pause button, we don't just spend the time by ourselves thinking and just going inward because of all the needs and the pressures around us. What we do is we kind of exert our spirits in a centrifugal motion outwards because we want to encounter our Father in heaven. We want to spend some time with him, which will help us to find the direction that we need to pray. And it's so important that we pray in the right direction, that we pray the Father's will, that we pray his kingdom come, and not just have our prayers fashioned by all the impressing needs upon our lives. We need to make sure that we're pushing out in prayer pitching out to encounter God's will and his kingdom. And then Jesus found his direction, didn't he? And it wasn't one that the disciples wanted. They didn't predict what Jesus wanted. They wanted him to stay here in this place and for people to gather to him. They wanted that kind of lifestyle. But Jesus found something very different when he was in that place of prayer, because he says, let's go somewhere else, to the towns nearby, so that I may preach there, for this is why I came. And so his calling and his purpose in ministry and life, his convictions about what he was doing with his time, all of those were confirmed because he pushed out in prayer and encountered his Father in heaven. And I'm praying that today each one of us finds that as we retreat, we're not retreating into ourselves, but instead we're hitting the pause button so that we can find that God's kingdom comes, that we understand the will of the Father, and we push out with greater power and authority into all that he's called us to do in Ichthus. Bless you all.